Hi everybody, so I'm here today with a much talked about, much hyped Victoria Beckham Orchid eyeshadow wardrobe. So I've got swatches to show you. We're going to try this on today, and then I've got 20 different swatch comparisons, which I will make in the second half of the video if you're not interested in that. So we can look at this first, then we can move to the swatches. I've had a lot of swatch requests from you. Thank you for sending those in because I did ask you, but I already had quite a lot I wanted to compare to. So this is very expensive, so I think it's helpful if we can work out, do you already have this in your collection? So that is definitely what we will be doing today. And then first looking at trying this on, which I'm very excited about. I am a bit of a Victoria Beckham big fan, let's just say. I do also have the Orchid and the Fig liners, both of which have been well, I say people have said they've liked using them or they want to use them, but they make sense because the colours match. So I'm going to try both of these today in the waterline because I want the eyeshadow to be the star of the show today, but I'll try them both in the waterline so you can see how they look. I don't know how this will go with me. Deep purples can be quite a washout on my fair skin, but anyway, maybe that'll be interesting to you to see if it works on you. So I shall be your guinea pig today. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Hannah, I'm 49, and here on my channel I show you a lot of new releases, lots of swatches, comparisons, lots of tests, and I do upload here several times a week, and if you think you'd enjoy that, I'd be over the moon if you did subscribe to my channel. It's ever so helpful. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for being here. I truly do appreciate you very much. And that's about it. Let's move straight into this review. So as usual, I'm just going to point out it's going to be noisy here today. I have everybody home. My husband's leaving for work, my son is leaving for a dog walk, we have all of the dogs going crazy in the background. It's a crazy house. I have to film today, in fact I have to film now because I've got things going on later, so I do apologise, but that's just the name of the game with my channel these days. So sorry. It's the only way I can continue my job, to be honest with you. Right, before we do anything, let's look at my swatch video, so here it is. So it does look really beautiful, but I have to say the shade I'm immediately disappointed with is this one, because from looking at the pictures, I was thinking there was more of a light purple, almost lilac twist to this, but there absolutely isn't. It's more of a sort of beigey gold almost, and that disappoints me because I was expecting it to be more lilac-y. And I'm looking forward to doing the swatch comparisons. I usually do them first and I almost want to dive into my comparisons, but I won't. I will do that after because it's going to be such a colossal comparison. So let's look at the two liners. I've got here the Orchid and the Fig. You can see that the Fig has been used a bit more by me. I'm not sure why it's that short because I don't think I use it that much in reality. I'm going to have to put this on my inner wrist to show you. Oh, I think that's why, because I've had trouble with it sharpening, clearly. That doesn't usually happen with Victoria Beckham, but clearly I'm guessing I had a lot of trouble with it because it's so short and I don't think I've worn it much. And it looks like it's fallen out again. Like I said, it's very unusual for Victoria Beckham for me. Let's see if this will sharpen. Okay, it's sharpened very, very sharp there. So let's hope for the best, especially when I'm putting it in my waterline. Hopefully I can squish it down a bit now while I do the swatch for you. So this is Fig, which could be, as many of you have suggested, a better match with this palette. And then Orchid, but Orchid, let's look what the description says on Fig. Fig says, yeah, it's the satin finish, and Orchid is it's also satin, but it's satin with a bit of shimmer. So they're both satin, but there is a bit of shimmer, and it's almost like a brownie. I prefer it for me. Like, I'm pretty certain I've just sharpened my way down on this one because that's not a shade I would use on my eyes. Not as an eyeliner anyway, but you can see Orchid, it's almost like a brown. So in fact, should we start with that? Maybe I will. No, I won't. I'll finish with that so you can see the eyeshadow without it. That's probably better, isn't it? And I'll finish with those in the waterline. So, how to apply these? I saw Victoria Beckham doing a little demo. I didn't quite catch the end of it, but I saw the very beginning. And I know in her video that she used this shade here as a wash over the whole of the lid. So I'm going to do that on one eye, not on both. I'm going to start with the crease number 1. A lot coming off as I tap there. Crease number 1 from Sonia G. I have got my eyes, I've got concealer on, and I've set it with powder. I certainly prefer using things like the Lisa Eldridge or the Mario liquid shadows to set my eyes at the moment, but because they give a bit of colour, I won't use them in an eyeshadow review, so I use concealer, which isn't quite as good, but it'll do. So you can see there's quite a bit of shine there, but not overly emphasising texture shine. And it looks a bit warm though. I was thinking of this palette as quite a cool palette, but now I've seen this and I've swatched this, I don't think it's quite as cool as I was hoping. That doesn't mean I won't like it, but it's not what I was expecting. So there's that as a wash. I think now it is starting to emphasise texture, isn't it, as it builds and as it gets into this area here. Just checking my camera in case it's doing that silly thing. Hopefully it isn't. No, I don't think it is. Fingers crossed. So now I'll just actually clear off the brush on my inner wrist there. And now I'm going to use this shade as my base shade on the other eye. And you really do need to tap off quite a bit with that. Yeah, it is light enough. Now this is a shade I can get on board with. This is the sort of shade that works really well for me. A very nice sort of spring shade, which is quite an unusual colour to associate with Victoria Beckham, but she did say in her review she's gone completely out of her usual sort of comfort zone in trying these colours, moving away from the deep dark smoky looks, which I know a lot of people love with Victoria Beckham, but a lot of people won't try Victoria Beckham because they don't like the really deep dark smoky look. So maybe that's another reason why Victoria's done it, so that you can basically try her formulas without having to go so deep and dark. The formula is beautiful, really beautiful. That blends very nicely. I'll get the Pencil Pro brush. I'm not going to put this one under the eye, this one here, because it is just way too shimmery for the under eye for me. It will not be very complimentary at all on me. This is where that "does it make me look ill" comes in. I think I will use this same shade under here. I'm sorry if that tapping off is a bit loud, but it really does need a lot of tapping off. I quite like the contrast there of this underneath and the other shade above actually. That gives quite a bit, doesn't it? Again, is it giving me the I look unwell vibe? I don't know. But look how different these two eyes are so far. So that's good because we're showing we've got different looks with this. So now it's about the disappointing colour, I think. Or shall I start with a little bit of this? Let's do it two different ways. I think for this, no, let's do it this way. This is what Victoria Beckham did as far as I remember, but I did stop watching around now. I know I should have watched it all. I didn't have time. I was trying to watch it. I remember exactly what happened. Bertie the puppy. He did something naughty because I remember putting it down and my son said, "What have you got playing on loop?" And it was Victoria Beckham. I never went back to it. Anyway, I'm fairly certain she used this in the sort of outer V, or maybe it was just along the lash line there, but anyway, as a sort of light smoke. Now that's her idea of a light smoke. It's my idea of quite a dark smoke because I like to keep my colours very soft. But by Victoria Beckham standards, it is definitely a very light smoke. So you can still get a smoky eye without being quite as, that works, doesn't it? Without being quite as wild, if you know what I mean. And I think sometimes with some people, these smoky looks can really wash you out, and I feel that's what they do with me. Victoria Beckham's quite pale and it really suits her, but I think that's down to her dark eyes, dark hair. It just suits her. Maybe you'll say it suits me, but I personally don't think it does, especially as I've got older. So I wonder if, mind you, we are a similar age, me and Victoria Beckham, I believe. But anyway, I wonder if she'll change her style as she gets older, because using a lot of dark liner, especially underneath, doesn't work so well as you get older. I used to use a lot of dark liner. I used to wear a black liner in the waterline every day for about 20 years. I loved it. And now it really doesn't work very well for me. Oh, that's very nice. I definitely wouldn't want more than that. I love how that is blended out. So that would be more of an evening vibe for me. And this side at the moment is more of a spring vibe. So what I'm thinking with this side is just use this deep shade to line. So I'll go in with a liner brush. And now I'll just line on the outer edge there. Again, like I said, Victoria might go all the way under. I'm not sure. Like I said, I didn't watch it to the end. But this is where lately, if you've watched my videos, I always start the deeper liner about there. I don't go all the way across, and I don't take it into the waterline. And that seems to work a lot better for sort of lifting the eye and not closing it off, which I think looks more prominent as you get older. The closing off of the eye anyway, and we want to look lifted as things start to move down, don't we? Well, I certainly do. That has got a lot of depth, but I've got a bit of fallout even though I tapped off. So you're going to have to be very careful with all of these actually. They do require a bit of tapping off, but they're very easy to work with. And so far I like both, and I like the fact that both sides look so different, so that's promising if you're looking for some very different looks. Oh, I like that. Let's see if I take a small brush now and take this one on this side just for the inner corner. Yeah, I think it's going to work quite well as an inner corner pop. It's a quite warm inner pop. I do tend to go for more brightening white shades there, but it's not over the top shimmery for an inner corner. Let's see what it looks like under the brows. Like, it's not going to be that super brightening. Like, I've got a brightening shade under my brow and you can see it's almost taking that down, so it's not going to brighten. But it does work. It's just not a shade I would personally choose for under the brow, but I quite like it in the inner corner. We'll just experiment with it today. Did I say I would do it this side? I don't know. But we might as well. I don't think there's another shade here that would work for inner corner, so let's do the same for both sides. It's got a little bit of something or other collecting there. Sorry about that. Right. They are looking quite different, aren't they? This is definitely my favourite because this side is looking too warm, and a lot of you say I don't like warms. It's not that I don't like them and I think they don't work on me. I do think I can be quite neutral. I think warms and cools both work on me. I just always prefer the look of cools myself. I'm not saying they don't work on me. So if you've got neutral / cool undertones, don't think I'm saying warms don't work, because I'm not saying that. I just always sort of, I'm personally drawn to these cooler looks myself. Right, so now let's take this one, the one that I'm not sure entirely where to put it. I was thinking just put some, I'll just put some there, to sort of like almost bring a bit of depth to this eye, but in a softer way. Oh, that is pretty. Now you could run this as well across the whole of the lid, but I like the fact that this one here is bringing more light, so I really want to keep that deeper shade and warmer, because this is the cooler look. I want to keep it to the outer part of the eye and keep that sort of bright there. Do you know, I think I'd leave that where it is. Let's take the crease number 2. I'm really liking this eye. And now it's definitely warm though, isn't it? So you can see the combination of warm with cool. But this is where I like a warm, because I do quite like mixing them. And I think that works nicely. I could take a little bit on this brush and just bring it across the top here. And I wouldn't personally bring either, this shade, sorry, I wouldn't bring that shade for depth in any way here. I think when I saw her doing hers, when she did this side for instance, she did this here and then she started bringing it over there a bit. Now, well, I suppose I can. I'm using the same brush here, but I have actually lost the shimmer, so I'm not bringing that. But I wouldn't bring this deep shade here further than there, because the minute I start bringing it between here and here, that's where it gives me a bit of a dark shadow that I don't think suits me, but it works very well on some people. So it's one of those things where if I say stop here, that's what works for me. But it might work well on you. I see so many people who apply it all the way to here as like a sort of shadow look, and it looks really good, but I personally don't like it on me. So don't dismiss the idea. Try it, you might like it. But then if you do it and you hate it, you can always go with a rescue shade like the Natasha Denona, which I always pull out at the moment, and put a shade like this over it. So if you wanted to experiment. I'm just trying to think, have I left anything out? So this eye, we have this all over, we have this colour underneath, we have the darkest shade as my Smoke Outer V shade, and then I didn't put any of this, did I? Okay, so let's take some of this. So I've got all colours on both eyes, just applied differently, and maybe I'll start taking it over the top so you can see how they layer. So this is going over the top of this one here. I've just seen my lips. I put a Pixie lip tone on today. I just did a shorts reel for it, and it's pH activated, and it did not look like this when I started the video, and I've just noticed they've now activated a lot. My lips look bright pink, which is not the best look to go with this, is it? Anyway, I do apologise. That looks very nice layered, very, very nice. And again, warm, cool, two different looks. But now I've added this on top, I'm liking the warm side a lot more than I was. It's really brought it all together. And it's softer because I haven't gone for the liner. Let's try these liners and let's see if that's going to ruin the look now. Or is it going to get too dark? And which side do I do which? So Fig is probably the cooler of the two, Orchid is the warmer. So maybe I'll go with the Fig on this side. So I'll put this in the waterline. I just want to slightly smoosh it down because it's a bit sharp. A bit wobbly actually. Something wrong with this one, you know, which is a first for me with Victoria Beckham hands. Have you had this problem with Fig? So is this going to make me look really ill if I put Fig into the eyeliner, or is it going to make it pop? I don't know. I'm not convinced I love that. Now obviously you could use this as a proper liner. Now my eye is now watering from doing that. I don't know what I think about that. What I definitely need to do is get rid of a bit of that fallout. Which seems to have gone, which is good. Let's try Orchid on the other side, which I think is going to be a better shade for me generally. Again, not a shade I would use in the waterline for me personally, but I'm just trying to squeeze them in without interfering too much with the demonstration of the shadows. Yeah, I think it works with this one. Quite like it actually, because it's quite a soft liner, it's not too harsh. I think I've probably got a bit too much there. What do you think? I do like it. I'm just a bit, what have I done? Because I'm not used to it. Let me get my Refa number 3. Just try to soften there because I think I've got a bit too much. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just go off camera and add some mascara. And we can see how it looks with mascara. So I've gone in with mascara and I've also changed my lips. I went in with this one from Glam, which I think is a good match for this eye look. This is the Galan Rouge G Satin 759 Le Prune Candide. I've linked it below if you're interested, but I think they're a really nice combination, especially with the cool side here. I'm quite shocked at how much the two sides contrast in the way you use it, which really does show you can get a very different look. Like, I don't think I've seen a look like this in any of the adverts. They've all looked really deep, smoky, very rich using this colour here. And I think I've shown today that you can use it much more softly, so lightly smoked on this side, just as a liner on this side, and you're getting two very different looks. The only thing I'm not sold on is using the Fig or the Orchid in the waterline. I'm not completely sold on that, but like for me, these are things I would add. If for instance I had this one all over the lid, maybe then go with the Orchid as a liner and have that as a soft warm look, and maybe with this. I don't know if I would add that one in or not. I would have to experiment. But then on this side, if you went with just this one all over and then you went with something like the Fig as a top line, I would go not under, because for me I don't like it under so much, but Fig across the top of the lash line with a bit of a wing with this one all over the lid. That could be really nice. This in the inner corner, and then maybe line underneath with that. So there are ways you can play around with them if you've got them. But yeah, I'm very pleased with the way they worked, as in the formulas are fantastic. The colour story is not quite what I dreamt it might be for me, because it's not lilac-y enough. I was thinking I was getting a tiny hint of lilac in this. I don't know if I just saw it differently on the adverts, or I don't know, maybe it's me just making a mistake. But I'm a little bit disappointed that this one is so warm. But I'm not too disappointed with the fact that I've got two very different looks, which is always a bonus, and I actually really like both. Which side do you like best? I bet you're going to say the warm, when I always say I like the cool. But do you know what? Maybe I'm slightly enjoying the warm side more. I don't know. Do you know what? Let's call it a draw. But I'm not going to say this is my favourite palette from Victoria Beckham or in my collection. I like it. Very usable. If you like the colours, I think you'd love it. I'm going to now move to the humongous swatch section. So let's get the 20 palettes out. Let's make sure my water is topped up and let's get into it. So here is my big basket full of palettes to compare. And the first one you might have just spotted then actually is this, which I told you all I didn't have. I don't have the mini, but I do have the Love palette. I don't know when I picked this up. I think I might have got it in one of those sales when you could go back and get ones you don't have, which is what I did. So I do have it. So I told you all I couldn't do that because that was the most requested swatch comparison. So I think before I do anything though, let's swatch this one onto my hand. So I'll try and keep the one swatch of this on my hand. I'll top it up as necessary if it gets a bit messy, but I'll try to keep this clear on my hand. I'm going to stick with on my hand because I think I can just get it up closer to camera from a swatch point of view. These are still here. I might as well leave them so you can see them or not if it's helpful to you, but they don't come off very easily, so I will just be kind to my skin for now and leave them there. And then we have this deep shade. My first swatch of this, by the way, my very first swatch when it arrived was terrible, and I thought, oh no. And then I swatched it a second time and it was perfect, very smooth, and it swatches very nicely for this sort of shade. So that's a little warning if you swatch in store. First swatches, always go for a few, I think. Formulas are really good. Very sort of creamy, this one, creamy and smooth, but this is the one that was the shock, because it's just not what I was expecting at all. So here we have Victoria Beckham. Now let's start with the comparisons. So I will try to pick the colours that I think are going to be closest. So here is the Love palette. I know it was the mini you were looking at, so I need to try and figure out what shades in the mini you meant. And here is Victoria Beckham, if you want to just see them close up there. So definitely going to take this one here, which is Trust. So that's comparing the deep shade. I think it's a different tone straight away. Yeah, it is. And what else can I compare? Maybe Lifetime, which is this one here. Or Transparent. I think I'll do both. So close but not a match. That's Lifetime, that's Transparent. And do we have a match? I don't think we do have a match for, certainly not in here anyway, for this shade, which is definitely more on the purple Orchid as you'd expect, whereas with the Love palette it's just a pink. That's definitely not a match. And I think, to be fair, this one here only matches with the two I've just swatched. So this shade here only matches with these two. But I will show you this, which is a matte called First, so we can see if there's a bit of similarity there. So I think that would be the comparisons. So it's similar, but you don't have it if you've got the Love palette. It's definitely different. And Lisa, if you're watching, you definitely confirmed, because you've said you've got the mini, that it's very different, and you specifically said the shimmers are different. It's much more pink orientated, the Love palette, whereas obviously Orchid is much more of a deep, smoky, darker colour. It's not that sort of vibrancy we get with the Love palette, so I'd say that's not a match. So one last look, Natasha Denona Love palette and the Victoria Beckham Orchid. Close, but not a match. So I will take off the Natasha Denona. The only thing I'm hoping today, when I'm doing so many of these swatches, is that the purples I'm swatching aren't going to be the ones that you can't get off. Right, so somebody suggested the Anastasia Beverly Hills Nouveau. Oh, really? Nouveau? Because there's so many purpley ones from them that are more similar. I don't think this is a match at all. Definitely somebody requested it, so I'll put Wisteria up. That's Lilac. I just don't see any matches here, I really don't. Lily, maybe. So there's Wisteria, there's Lily. Okay, Lily's a little bit of a match. Do you know what? That would be it. I'll put Isle and I'll put Paloma. So that is this one and this one. There's no purple in this, so I'm not quite sure why this one was asked for. Because when I was looking through Anastasia Beverly Hills, there's quite a lot with rich burgundy, reddish tones. Definitely no matches really there, are there? If you're going to compare formulas, I would say the Victoria Beckham is slightly smoother, but there's more of a sort of wow factor in the shimmers you get from Anastasia. They're just more subtle and maybe elegant with Victoria Beckham, as you get with some of the really high-end brands. I love the Anastasia ones though. So I don't think that one was much of a match, to be fair. Another one was Natasha Denona again, the Retro palette. So this one could have a few matches actually. Let's see what I can find. So if I look, I'll go with Andy. Sorry, my stomach has now decided to start rumbling. I don't know why. I shouldn't be that hungry, but I haven't had breakfast yet. There's Andy. That's slightly similar, isn't it? If I go with the deepest matte, which is called Groove, different tone there. Can I find a match for the shimmer? I don't think I can, but I'll go with the one called Hello. this is looking quite similar, isn't it? And then that very lightest shade, this one here, this is the one I'm finding hard to match so far on the ones I've found closer matches to. There isn't one in this that really is at all similar. I'll put Vivian, that's the lightest one, so we can see. But you're not a million miles away here, are you? You could achieve something quite similar with Natasha Denona, and I would say the smoothness of the shimmer with Natasha Denona here is quite similar. So obviously Natasha Denona formulas vary. This one is a little bit older, the retro palette. I think the shimmer finish, if you look at these two, very similar. Maybe, possibly, the Natasha Denona is slightly smoother, you know, which doesn't massively surprise me because it is brilliant. Right, so I've got another Natasha Denona request. This one's Roxa. So obviously this one's strong purples. Do we have any matches here? Possibly. This one here looks like it could be a match, doesn't it? The matte. So what's this one called? It's called Eclipse. I think this one could be darker, more purpley. Yeah. Obviously the Roxa is a purple, so it is a true purple. So it is actually quite different. I'll put Jacaranda just to show you, but that one's definitely very different. I know that, but I'll show you anyway. So this is the other matte from Roxa, Jacaranda. Need to make sure I clean my fingers off. I'm going to need lots of wipes for these comparisons. I'm going to take Regal, I think it says. I'm reading these quickly without putting my glasses on, so if I get the names wrong, I do apologise, but this will become incredibly long if I don't. And then the first one, Dixie. So I've put the shimmers, Regal and Dixie. So that one's Dixie. I must have had some purple on my hand there, and that was Regal. Let me just do Dixie again. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be a match at all. It's quite different in tone. Yeah, there's Dixie. I didn't have purple in my hand, it's because it's got a shift in it. So there's Roxa. No real similarities there. So I'd say no, you don't have it with Roxa. Right, how am I getting on? I've done 16 to go. Okay, and I've got some here from Viseart. So Viseart, the Violette Nocturne. This doesn't mean they're requested, this might be me picking them out because I did pick out a number of these before I asked you. I think there's a few matches here with the Nocturne. So let's see. It'd be interesting to see how the formulas match up because I always say that you don't get better than Viseart in terms of formula. Apologies for that section looking warm. My camera has a habit of trying to change the entire colour to match what was close up to the lens, which was the warm shade then. So we're getting it back to cool again here. Viseart is not a match really. And there's certainly no shade like this. So far this combination of colours, sorry, that's the puppy. This combination of colours is proving to be quite different. I told you it was going to get bad, didn't I? The puppy is now up and playing with the other two. Is he shouting at me? I will go and check if it gets much noisier. I don't know if he's shouting at me to come in. It's become a bossy little pants, this puppy. Let me go and check. So yeah, he was outside the door. I've been promising you a little mention of the Bertie boy. Look how big he's got. He's put on about 1.5 kilos since you last saw him. He's about 14, 15 weeks. Look how big he's getting. And he's everywhere. Aren't you, Bert boy? Everywhere. And he's so cheeky. He's jumping over everything. He's chewing on everything. He's making demands. He's a right little diva. And he won't sit still for the camera now. Will you, Bert boy? Hey? You gonna be a good boy? Oh, you're looking at camera. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I will return him to my husband and be back. So on to another Viseart. This one is the Paris Reveries. I think this is me putting this out rather than it being requested. If I show you them side by side, I think there are some matches here, but we don't have the deep matte. I think we could have, well, maybe not. I was going to say we might have a match for the lighter matte, but it's very different actually. Then we do have this other one. Let me try them both. This one is not swatching well, you know, from Viseart, which is unusual, unless it's just a bit old, I don't know. Very chunky. This one is quite close. And I think it's the shimmers. I have, by the way, been sent the new apricot one in PR, so I'm looking forward to showing you that one if you're looking out for that. There's been a glass smash in the kitchen if you're hearing hoovering, and that's why Bertie's barking, so he's been locked out. Anyway, these are the shimmers. So there are some crossovers. I would say you've sort of got this minus this one, which is the key one really. So some crossovers. But again, another thing you want to do if you just want to sort of recreate the Victoria Beckham vibe without spending money is obviously you can pull out a few of these palettes and pick different colours from each if you just want to have fun doing that. But I would imagine most of you would like to know, do I have a direct dupe? So let's see, let's keep going. Another request was Dior Plum Parade. So here's Plum Parade. Now there's no warmth in Plum Parade, so we're not going to get the warm matches, but let's look at the matte. This one. Let's see if that's a match. It's not a match, but it's not as pigmented as you would expect. Dior is never going to be as pigmented as Victoria Beckham, but they're not a million miles away from each other. Let me swatch the purple in the middle so you can see the difference. And I'll also swatch, I'll swatch all of them apart from the shimmer because the shimmer is white. So you can see the whole Plum Parade. So there's Plum Parade. So not really any similarities apart from this one here. But then if you had the Viseart, the one that was missing was this one, wasn't it? So you could have those two, and that could be an example of putting two together to create the full effects, if you like. There was another Dior request, one I certainly didn't think of myself, which is the Pink Lollipop, because I don't think there's anything in this that is remotely similar, to be honest. I think it's because so many people thought this was going to be lighter than it is. So the only one that might be similar in this is this colour here, this one. But it's not. I can promise you it's not. But anyway, let me swatch these three here, just to show you quickly. But yeah, I mean, they are very, very light. I mean, this was an incredibly light release from Dior for spring, and they're just not going to match at all. Sorry, that last swatch is not very good, but I'm not being overly accurate with this swatch because I just don't see it being similar, apart from this one here and this one, which you wouldn't expect, would you? So this is the deepest shade in this, and that one seems to be a match for this. You'd never think that looking at them together, would you? But it is. And that just shows how they don't come across the same in pictures as they do when you put them on the eyes. Classic example. So another suggestion which I hadn't thought of, so thank you for the suggestion, was the Hourglass Modernist. So here it is. I put them together. Now these got quite a bad press. I thought that they are overpriced, but the formulas were fantastic. Well, that's slightly similar, isn't it? In fact, that might be one of the best matches so far, but it's more of a brown than a purple like we're getting with the Victoria Beckham. I don't think anything else is going to be a match though. See, swatching these, I remember just how good they are. This formula is exceptional from Hourglass. So good. I would say it's better than the shimmer on Victoria Beckham. That's how good they are. So if you do like those colour stories, I know they might be boring. But if you like them, these formulas are really good. So don't rule these out, you know. Yeah, that's the whole thing. The other two are so light. So the only ones to really think about is this one, the deep one, which is quite a close match. So again, if you're just looking to match that shade, that's going to be another good option for you. Getting through wipes like nobody's business here. So next one, the MAC Metamorphosis Face and Eye Palette. Now, I don't think there's many that could match from this, but I think the one you were thinking of when you asked me is this one here. So let's try that. Sorry, my stomach is growling away. I would say this is almost like a combination of these two mixed together there. I'll put the goldy one on. Yeah, very different. And I'll also put this one on, but I don't think there's any similarities whatsoever. I'll just quickly use my thumb for that because I'm running out of... Yeah, they're so bold, these colours from MAC, aren't they? But completely different. I mean, I can put the lilac, but it's just, there's nothing like this whatsoever in the Victoria Beckham. I wish there was. I think that would have made it for me if it had been. But anyway, so there's the MAC Metamorphosis. That's the Pat McGrath. Here we go. No similarities there. I didn't get any Pat McGraths out. I did have a quick look. I don't think there's any direct matches. I think if you picked out colours from lots of them, you might find them, but I think that's possibly a bit less helpful and will become a real marathon in swatches. This one was requested a lot, and I definitely put this one aside to check for you, and this is the purple one from Louis Vuitton. This one was one of my #1 eyeshadow palettes of the whole year. I can never open this when I've got wet hands. It's so chunky. Let's put them side by side. I know they're not a match, but I think there could be a few matches. So let's see. And I'll be very interested to see how the shimmers compare. Oh, they're not, I don't know. It's the formula. I'll show you the shade I'm thinking of now that is just a knockout with the Louis Vuitton. So first of all, that lighter shimmer, completely different because it doesn't have the warmth. But these are the two here that really stand out in formula for me. Let's just swatch the whole thing. It's not going to be the same, but it's a similar theme, I think, but it's all cool and there's no warmth. And I think that's going to be something with the Victoria Beckham that's going to please some people and upset a lot of others, that it's got that warmth and that cool. I think a lot of people would probably have thought it's very cool and might be disappointed with the warmth. That's a light dusting of the Louis Vuitton. But these formulas are incredibly smooth and complementary. They really are. Possibly the deepest is a bit of a match. But I'll just get a bit more on my fingers because I have swatched the Victoria Beckham quite strongly, so maybe, because I know this one was requested so much as a comparison. But yeah. There's the Louis Vuitton. Look how smooth they are. They're so good. But yeah, not a match. I think Victoria's done well with this one, you know. She hasn't managed to put one out that is matching anything at the moment. So I'm not sure if she beats the formula of Louis Vuitton. In fact, I wouldn't go that far. But so far it's quite unique. Now, Betty was requested so much by all of you, well, lots of you, from Lisa Eldridge, but I don't think there's going to be many similarities with this one either. Again, it's not the lilac-y colours we were expecting. But let's swatch Betty. So some of you, I think, were even thinking I'll get one or the other because Betty has just been relaunched. And this is one of the ones that I think need to be looked at the most, which was this one here. Formula wise, very similar, both very creamy, very smooth, beautiful formula. But obviously we're getting true lilac-y shades here with the Lisa Eldridge, which we certainly aren't with the Victoria Beckham. This one, Betty, is more my colour story, to be honest. But we are getting a combination of warmth with cool with this, because Lisa added this one in here. So that's where the similarity kicks in, I think. So let's... Yeah, you could argue they're quite similar in the way that they're mixing colours. And they're not a million miles out, but there's a lot more pigment coming here from Betty. Look how well Betty swatched. It is stunning, isn't it? And then there's the Victoria Beckham. So very different again, but it is a similar combination of cool purplish tones, excuse me, with warm. But again, you don't have the Victoria Beckham Orchid if you have Betty. If you're going to pick one, they're just very different. For me personally, it's always going to be Betty, because Betty's got lilacs, and Betty's just, I'm so attracted to lilacs. So, and it's just more me. So I'm a little bit biased, I think. Talking about lilacs, another one to look at is the digital lilac that launched last year from Charlotte Tilbury, which might seem like a strange one to compare, but I just wanted to see if there are any crossovers at all. This was something I thought could have matched with this when I first saw Victoria Beckham's online, but obviously now that I've got it, I'm changing my mind a lot because the colours are just not similar. Obviously there's no warmth in this because this is a cool tone, mostly cool tone anyway, and there's certainly no goldy brown type of shades. I don't know, I can't really swatch much to compare here. Those three are the only ones that are slightly similar, but they're just completely in a different colour story, so I won't go any further with that one. Still getting on okay in terms of my hand hasn't stained, so I think I'll leave Tom Ford till the last because I've got a feeling they're the ones that stain, and I've got 3 Tom Fords to compare. I've got another Dior here. This one is the Dior Celestial Purple. This is the backstage. Again, but we do have a mixture of warms here. This one, I don't know. The deepest matte. Yeah, it's more purpley. There's the deepest matte. It's not quite as dark as the one from Victoria Beckham. Let's have a look at this shimmer that's quite, yeah, that's not a million miles off. The darkest of the shimmers. Wow, so this one could be one of the closest matches, I would say, so far. Let's take these 2 central ones here. See, this is more up my street because it does have the lilacs. Let's look at the very lightest. I'll look at the 2 lightest shimmers with this one. One is more of a white, but the other one is more of a warm finish, which is hard to see actually. It's here, but it's not swatching very well at all. I'll try and get a bit more. Yeah, it's not swatching much. That's the warmest shimmer. That is probably the closest we've had so far as a match. So I would probably go so far as to say if you've got this, you don't need Victoria Beckham. So we have a sort of match, so that's good. Celestial Purple, Dior Backstage. But I would say the formulas of Victoria Beckham are a little bit better with this one. Oh, we have a stain. The darkest one has stained this side, so that's going to start affecting my swatches. We've done quite well for that not to happen up until now. Those Tom Fords are waiting to get me at the end. Another Dior. This one came in this sleeve, if you remember this. This was the Paris collection. My stomach is going to rumble, I can feel it. Shush stomach. The Champs-Élysées limited edition. This is number 983. And here it is. Obviously this isn't available now, but this could very well be in your collection. And I think there looks like a few similarities here. So let's see. Let's start with this deep matte and see if that's a match. It's more purpley. Not a million miles off. The shimmers in this though are all slightly pinky leaning, not warm. Again, for me that's better. If you remember this release as well, I think these were the Beige formula. So as I always say with Dior, don't judge Dior by one quint that they release or by one collection, because they all differ, and this was one of the really special ones. It really is very, very, very pretty. Oh, look at that. Definitely prefer that one from Dior, and look how gorgeous that is. Again, such a good example of don't rule out Dior, because they come out with absolute bangers sometimes. And this was one of them. And I love the sleeve. I don't usually keep sleeves. That's the last one, so that's the 4 there. The last one you can see there is very faint. So it's not a match, but it's not a million miles off if you look at this against this and this against this. So you could get something similar, and I would argue better in colours for my taste. So if you're somebody who was hoping this wasn't warm and you've got that, I'd say you've got a better option. My hand is starting to look decidedly pink now, but we're getting to the end. So a few of you have requested for me to show you the Chantecaille. Now I know that this is going to be different in colour, but it's a good shout because these are the 2 Chantecaille spring trios that have just launched, which I absolutely adore, and both of these have that deep purpley shade in. So that's what we're going to look at. So this one is the Dusk, which is the cooler of the 2, and then the other one is Dawn, which is the slightly warmer of the 2. But the purpley one, I'll show you them like this, and then I'll show you this. I can see why you've requested it, but I don't think there'll be a match because they're very, very light in colour really, the Chantecaille. So this is the Dusk and this is the Dawn with the purple shades. Dusk, Dawn. So I would say the Dusk purple is most similar. I suppose they're not that far off in depth. You will get more smoke from the Victoria Beckham for sure. So if I go into I think I'll go into Dawn, into this one here, and the one next to it. So let's put Dawn first. There's Dawn, you can see how pale it is. So you're not really going to get a match with this and this, but it is mixing the warmth with the purple in a much lighter and more subtle way. And then with the Dusk, I'll take these 2 now, add these on at the end. So there's the 2 from Dusk. So again, not a match. It's going to be about, it's really about this one not being in there, because you could sort of create this look, but you're not getting this colour either, are you? In fact, you're not getting many, let's be honest. So yeah, not a match, but not massively dissimilar. But you will not get anything like the pigment or the impact. Like the way I can smoke this out, you can't do that as well with the Chantecaille. It's much softer, but they are stunning. They are very, very stunning. But you do need to appreciate softer looks with Chantecaille, which I absolutely do. So now we're on to Tom Ford. So this is the one from the Burgundy collection, Disco Dust, which somebody asked me about. I wasn't actually going to swatch this, but someone asked me yesterday if I would. I don't think there's any similarities at all with this. The only thing that might have made you think of it is that it came in the burgundy sleeve, so you might have thought, well, but this is not burgundy. This palette is just not burgundy at all. If I just show you quickly on my fingers. I mean, maybe this one here could be a match, I suppose. That top shade. Yeah, I suppose let me do them both. I might as well. Oh, do you know what though? Now I see them next to each other, they do look alike. Look at that. So obviously this is more of a brown. That top one's quite a match, isn't it? Let me get another white, because this is where the pigment is going to be really strong on my fingers. Look at the colours of my fingers now. I'm going to need a bit of hand cream today, I think. What are the two, the other two that I didn't swatch? I'll do it all now because that's thrown me. I wasn't expecting them to look quite so alike. So there it is, the Tom Ford against the Victoria Beckham. So when we start introducing these two, there's no similarities, but these two at the top, not a million miles off, but really when you go for Victoria Beckham, you're going for the Orchid, and you're not getting the Orchid shade there with the Tom Ford. But that shimmery gold one was very close, wasn't it? So yeah, good shout asking me to check that, because I was going to skip that. I didn't think there'd be any similarities there, because I have got all my palettes out, as well as looking at your recommendations, and put them side by side with the Victoria Beckham to see if I think it's worth swatching. So if they're not included in this, it's because they don't look similar, so that's why I haven't done them, unless there's one I just haven't thought of. So the next request, no, this wasn't a request, this was me thinking I'd check it. This one's metallic mauve. So let's see these by each other. I'll do a full swatch of this. So the matte, very light compared to it. I mean, I think you can see from looking at them side by side that they're not going to be the same. But I thought it was worth checking, or at least comparing. So there's metallic mauve. I mean, the colour that's slightly similar to this one is the shimmer, I suppose, so it's just a different formula, and it's also lighter. But this one is quite similar. The deepest matte in metallic mauve is more similar to the lightest matte in Victoria Beckham. So some crossovers. And I'm down to the last one. I've actually reached the end of this marathon swatch. If you're still here, well done. So the last one I've got to show you is Rose Exposed. This is the one that was Valentine's. Was it last year or the year before? These are all shimmery though, the Tom Fords, but I did think it was worth looking at these because of the colours. So let's start with this deepest one and see how that compares. That's quite a strong match actually. Not a complete match, but it's quite a strong match. But look at the formula of the Tom Ford compared. It definitely wins there. And this one, I'm interested to see if that one's going to be similar to the warm. It's more gold, but it's not a million miles off. Ooh, we have a very close match here, don't we? Let's look at the other two. This is where it's going to slightly change, I think. Oh, I love this. I love this. These formulas are sensational. So there's Tom Ford, there's Victoria Beckham. Well, Tom Ford wins in terms of formula and just being stunning. But there are a lot of similarities, again. So you could argue if you've got this, you don't need Victoria Beckham. You don't have it, but you've got something close. So there we go. That is the end of my mammoth swatch request comparison section of this video. So I hope that's been helpful to you. And if you think of any others and you want to tell me if you've got ones in your collection you think are really similar, please let everyone know in the comment section below, because that's just helpful to everybody. Because it's very hard to tell online, isn't it, when we're looking? Just like we thought the Natasha Denona Love palette was going to be so close, but it doesn't look like it is, even though it looks like such a close match online. But anyway, overall, I think this is a very, very, very pretty palette, and I'm quite surprised at how much I like the warmer side. I thought I would prefer the cool. And I love the versatility, I do, I appreciate that, and I think you will too if you like both. But if you're coming here for pure cool tones, you're going to be quite frustrated that we have two quite warm tones with this one, and it's not as cool as you might have thought. But this is going to work well for neutrals, it's going to work well. I would say neutrals are going to benefit the most. So if you've got warm tones, I'm not sure how these colours will play on you. If you've got cool tones, I'm not sure how this would play on you, but if you're neutral, happy days. But anyway, let me know what your tones are if you try it, how they work on you. I would love to hear, and I'm sure everyone watching would love to hear too. So anyway, that is the end of my video. I'm now going to go and eat so my stomach can stop shouting at me. And I do hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please do hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed, I'd be delighted if you did subscribe to my channel. But if you're already subscribed, thank you so much for being here. I truly do appreciate every single one of you, and I really do hope to see all of you again for my next video. Take care everybody, bye!